I was going to talk about something that I've been contemplating, but then as soon as I started recording, I hit a strange contradiction. Like there's no point in it. Or I have to explore much more deeply to come to a conclusion. If you're new, this is my video journal. It's not intended to be advice or guidance. I'm just expressing what I'm thinking and feeling in the present moment. And so are some local birds and possibly some thunder from the storm as well. Nature also expresses itself while I'm expressing myself. uh, so yeah, I've been contemplating this idea that, like, what if I stayed isolated? And because so for anybody who's not up to date, I'm isolated right now on purpose, and I'm only coming out of my isolation to do very specific things, and I'm doing a lot of reading, listening to podcasts, things like this, training, exercise, and just being with myself and listening to silence, like just seeing what emerges from inside of me. And in the past, the pattern has been go away and do this kind of retreat with myself, figure some stuff out, and then come back to the world and, fall back into a routine, into some patterns, and they will be slightly better than they were before. And I thought that was great. But I've all of a sudden, it's been a process where I've been unable to do more and more things that are detrimental. I've been unable to make decisions that are bad for me, just because the knowledge of the consequences is so loud and strong in my awareness that even if I summon all of my self-destructive tendencies that I have left, all of my mischief, all of my playfulness, even, like whatever is within me to do something detrimental, just because it might be fun, just to have the pleasure in the moment without worrying about the consequences in the future, I've found that I'm unable to, more and more. And I've been craving ways to fill my cup emotionally, spiritually, in all ways to feel good, and ways to experience pleasure that don't have all of the negative consequences. And there's this weird in-between place where I haven't really figured out how to do that very well yet, but I also am unable to go back to all of the negative behaviors. So it's puzzling. And I've been contemplating this thing, like, what if I just didn't go back? And then, depending how philosophical you want to get, there is nothing to go back to. It's an illusion. It's a story that, there is an old pattern where I go back and I fall back into a routine and start to participate in all of these things that don't align with me. I don't have to do that. I could just stay in my what I called isolation, but now it's not isolation. It's like I've isolated everything that's important. And what I've really done is isolated a lot of my time. I've isolated more of my time than I've ever isolated before. Is that English? Does that language make sense? So I'm not sharing as much time, and that's why I'm calling it isolation. I have work, I come out of isolation for work, and I come out of isolation, to do normal things and go and buy stuff. But yeah, I referred to it as like my monk in the cave phase, like retreating away from society. And yeah, the way that I started this video off is I wanted to talk about this thing, and then I just hit this wall because there was a contradiction. It didn't make sense, like, because I was going to talk about going back to the way things were, but I can't see that anymore. I just see, I think this is going to be the way I do things now. Like, I want my own core space that, it's totally up to me. I'm totally in control. And I can always retreat back to it. And I guess on a more emotional level, the reason this is so puzzling to me is because I've never had it. I've never had a safe place that's been mine, where I'm in control. And that's pretty incredible. I've sort of had tastes of it in the last 12 months, but now for the first time in my life, I'm like, I do feel like I'm in control of my immediate space. And because it's new to me, that's why automatically I'm starting to think in terms of like these old stories of how the past used to work, but the old program of the past has just become redundant, irrelevant, absolutely useless. Like, now so when I was getting ready to start recording, I thought I was going to talk about should I go back to that way of living, or should I continue to isolate myself? And even the language that I was going to use doesn't make sense anymore. Like, in the present moment, my paradigm is shifting. My perception of reality is changing, and it's very interesting. Sometimes it's hard to like continue to articulate while everything's rearranging itself in my awareness. That's why I was like relaxing. I'm excited about this because it means it's like I've been wandering around in the wilderness, in the jungle for 30 years and just surviving, and always watching my back, always prepared for the next change, the next problem, the next attack. And suddenly, and this is all an internal created reality, right? Like, on the surface you could say like, what are you talking about, Kai? Like, you had a roof over your head and you had people around you who loved you. But it's like, it's more than that. It's how it felt and how it's changed inside me now, so that it no longer feels that way. So what I'm describing, walking around in the jungle feeling unsafe and like never having anywhere secure, like what I was going to say is like, it's like I've found a place now and I've built a shelter, and it's a secure, permanent shelter. Keeps the rain out, keeps the predators out, keeps everything out. And it's just my place, it's just my safe place. And now I can continue to explore the jungle, and I always have somewhere to go back to. And actually makes me feel more fearless than I felt when I was braving the jungle every single day without any security. Like, the security is making me feel like I can venture further, deeper. I can, I could even like fight the monsters in the jungle, or the creatures, and I could, I could become injured, and I could make mistakes, and I could hurt myself, and I'd have somewhere to go and heal, and everything would be okay. Like, having that security, like, I feel like I can take more risks, and it actually feels like I can do so much more. Even though, like, I was speaking in terms of being more isolated, it doesn't feel isolating, because when I do come out of my cave, which is like what I've been calling it, I go for it. Like, I'm ready to explore, I'm ready to take chances, I'm ready to do anything that I want to do. And yeah, it all starts in your perception, doesn't it? Just all growing up and everything, like, I never felt like I had a place to calm down. Really, that was like something so simple, just a place where I could go and everyone would leave me alone, and I could just heal and calm down. Really, that's something that I really needed for my whole life. It's just a place where I could calm myself and feel at peace again, and just like get back to, so that you're not carrying around 500 reactions from previous experiences. Like, a place where you could, like, that's what I've been doing lately. I've just been doing nothing on purpose, like laying on the floor under the fan, like I said in another journal, for hours, and just allowing my thoughts to run their course, and imagining new possibilities for the future. And it's so important, and it's like so absurd at the same time. Like, people would be like, what, that's what you've been doing? But it's like the most important thing that I've ever done in my life, is like just being alone. And I've been alone, but I haven't really, like, if you've been following the journals, like, the first time I was really on my own was in the last 18 months. And it's impossible to articulate how profound being by yourself can be to somebody who's never had that space before. And I think you're gonna see the results. Like, I'm seeing the results. I can feel the results. I'm a different person every single day. The growth isn't happening in months or years, it's happening every day. I can feel shifts every day. I'm letting things go. I'm creating new possibilities. I'm expressing new things. I'm having new thoughts. It's all shifting, and it feels amazing. If you get anything out of these journals, please pass them on to others who may benefit. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your comments down below, and I'll see you again very shortly.